light for the first time ever. For the rookies, it was an initiation. For the veterans, a new twist on a familiar challenge. It's gonna be fun.
Great fight right here. Bobby Rahal cannot bear to look. Driving his heart out right now.
Gap 410. That's a big one. Gonna take another shot. Comes Oriole.
Inside.
Save for second.
How close that was.
For Michelle Jourdain of Team Rahal, Milwaukee was the answer to a prayer. After 7+ seasons of trying, career victory number 1.
I almost started crying in the car. You know, thinking of my dad, my mom, love you.
Today, the scene shifts to California's Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca and the infamous corkscrew downhill. Welcome to the land of surf and Steinbeck and speed. California's beautiful Monterey Peninsula. For round 7 of the Bridgestone Presents the Champ Car World Series powered by Ford, this is the Champ Car Grand Prix of Monterey. It's been an interesting 2 weeks for 26-year-old Mexican driver Michelle Jourdain Jr. On the Milwaukee Mile a fortnight ago, he claimed his long-awaited first career victory, driving for a team owned by 3-time series champ Bobby Rahal and CBS late-night host David Letterman. And then he came to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, walking on air after that victory. 7th in Friday's opening round of qualifying, Jourdain spun the car and threw it off the road again and again on Saturday in the search for speed. In second round qualifying, he took pole position. But in post-race technical inspection, he was found to have been driving a car a mere 6 pounds underweight. His pole position was removed, and Jourdain was relegated to 13th on the grid. Let's pick up the story in the pit lane with Derek Daly.
And, of course, Michelle Jourdain's team owner, Bobby Rahal, who has had so much success here between Can-Am, between his own 4 wins in Champ Car and 3 wins as an owner. Rahal has 8 wins here. And, Bobby, of course, you are also the Grand Marshal. But yesterday was a time of great joy again for his pole position. What happened afterwards, I'm sure you're a bit angry, maybe a bit embarrassed, Bob. How did that happen?
Well, I'm certainly embarrassed and certainly disappointed for Michelle. I don't think the infraction was fundamental to his performance. I think he rightfully belongs there, but the car was underweight by about 4 pounds, and I think obviously our procedure wasn't strictly adhered to. It looks like the only plausible explanation is there was some fuel in the car that was not evacuated when we weighed the car the first time, and then of course when they did drain the entire car, all of a sudden that half a gallon or so made the difference. And again, disappointment, embarrassment for our team. That's not the way we do things. And I feel for Michelle because he, starting where he's starting, it's going to be a hard day.
Thank you, Bobby, but at least it really sets up a potential barnstormer of a race because Michelle still believes he has the fastest car, despite the fact that he's deep in the grid.
No question about it, Derek. It's going to be an exciting race indeed. As we wish you all a happy Father's Day and hello from Laguna Seca in California. I'm Bob Varsha along with native Californian Tommy Kendall. Tommy, a very tough moment for Bobby Rahal and his team, but particularly so for Michelle Jourdain Jr.
No question about it. They can take away his starting position, his pole position, but what they can't take away is what he got in Milwaukee in addition to the trophy and the money, and that is the confidence that comes with knowing rather than thinking you can win a Champ Car race. And so he proved earlier this year he could get a pole, he proved he could lead, now he's proven that he can win. Now it's up to him and Team Rahal to use the fastest car and the fastest pit crew to show that they can take a race that hasn't gone perfectly and grab a hold of it and make it their own.
Well, obviously, the next question is who will start from pole in today's race? The second fastest man in final qualifying, 31-year-old Canadian Patrick Carpentier with the Players Forsyth team. He was told after the fact by his team that he was the new pole sitter, and this was his reaction.
Yeah, pole. They threw Michelle Jourdain's time out.
What?
No way. He's underweight.
He's underweight. Yeah, right. No, seriously.
I'm dead serious.
No, it's got to be a joke.
No, I'm serious.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they're confirming now.
I knew it. You see, we have the car.
Patrick, big surprise to be on the pole here, and that's the good news. The bad news is you got your teammate PT right up your butt going into turn 1.
Yeah.
Your thoughts today?
That's about right. That sums it pretty well. But we'll see how it goes. No, it's going to be important to be first after the first corner. We rarely say that, but here it's pretty important because it's very difficult to pass. So hopefully if we can do that, that would be fantastic. But I got a few guys behind me that are also thinking about being first in the first corner, so it'll be interesting.
You win at Mid-Ohio last year. You promised to run naked if you got the checker there. Any promises today?
No, I can't. I got caught with it and I had to do it.
Thank goodness. Thanks, Pat. Good luck.
Well, it was semi-naked, to be absolutely honest, and it happened right here on CBS. Thank you, Calvin Fish. There is Bruno Junqueira, who will start on the outside of the front row alongside Carpentier. And he's had an interesting 2 weeks as well. He's in the spot shadow. Turn 2, lap 1 on the Milwaukee Mile. He spins and backs hard into the trackside wall, is hit not by one, but by 2 different cars. He was taken to the hospital for x-rays, gave the crowd a thumbs up. And he was all right and is racing again this weekend. He was the fastest man in Friday's opening round of qualifying, locking himself into the front row for today's race. A great job by Junqueira, tied with Paul Tracy for second in the championship coming in. Once again, here's Derek Daly.
And Bob, that speed that Junqueira hit the wall is very similar to the speed of the fatal crash of Dale Earnhardt in Daytona. And the G measurement from the blue box on car registered 70 Gs. The accelerometer in the driver's earpiece measured over 100 Gs. So Bruno Junqueira, the obvious question is, how do you feel?
I feel a little bit stiff, but we had a weekend off, then I could treat myself. Thanks Dr. Steve Ove, Daryl Trumbo, and all the cat guys, and I'm feeling much better.
You're in good position here on the grid, Bruno. Now, last year there was a first lap crash. When you go down to a corner that potentially you can go too wide, do you take it easy? Do you anticipate, or do you just charge? Because remember, you're still looking for this elusive first win.
Yeah, for sure I want to win, but I know that the Pacific car is being very good all the weekend, and then I have to be on the track after the first corner and first lap.
I think that is the key, be on the track. But there is a daring outside line, boys, on that first corner, or the second corner, that we will watch throughout the day.
It's going to be a great first lap. Now, why is all this business of starting position so important? Well, take a look at the top 5 in points and where they start. The points leader in this series, Michel Jourdain, is the only one of the top 5 in points who will start anywhere outside the first 2 rows. In 20 previous runnings of the race here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, only twice has the eventual race winner come from outside the top 3 positions. This is going to be a very interesting race. Of course, it's Father's Day weekend, and fully a third of the field have their fathers on hand this weekend. Here's a group shot of the fathers and sons celebrating this important weekend here at Laguna Seca. We'll be back in just a moment.
CBS Sports.
California's beautiful Monterey Peninsula and Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, site of today's kart champ car Grand Prix of Monterey. The Monterey Peninsula is about a 90-minute drive south of the San Francisco Bay Area. They've been racing here since the old Pebble Beach street races in the Domati Forest back in 1950. Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca has been here since 1957. It's changed a bit over the years, but it is still one of the superb racetracks of all the world. Here are our weather conditions as we approach post time, if you will. 65-degree air temp, the track 107 Fahrenheit. The cockpit temperatures in these open cockpit race cars up to 132. Humidity above 50%. These drivers are going to be working very, very hard today. More elevation change than any other track on the circuit. Here's a look at our starting grid powered by Ford. The surprise pole sitter, Patrick Carpentier. The pole is the 4th of his career. He'll start next to the fastest man in Friday's opening round of qualifying, Bruno Junqueira. Paul Tracy, winner of the first 3 races of the season, will be inside row 2 alongside dashing French rookie Sébastien Bourdais. On row 3, Adrian Fernandez, still looking for his first victory as the only owner driver in the series. He'll start next to rookie Mario Haberfeld. On row 4, Englishman Darren Manning has his father with him this weekend, as does the man he'll start next to, the 96 Series champion and 97 Laguna Seca winner, Jimmy Vasser. Derek Daly.
Well, Patrick Carpentier has been in teammate Paul Tracy's shadow all season because of Tracy's 3 wins. Today, because he's on the pole, he has a golden opportunity to make a personal statement. With that opportunity comes the pressure of being mistake-free and running from the front, despite the fact that the more aggressive Paul Tracy, his teammate, will be snapping at his heels.
Thanks, Derek. On row 5, the senior driver in the series, Roberto Moreno, will start next to Spaniard Oriol Servia, who crashed in second-round qualifying. On row 6, a good run from Mario Dominguez, starting next to Brian Herta, a two-time race winner here at Laguna Seca, back in a champ car for the first time in 2 seasons. On row 7, bumped from the pole, Michel Jourdain Jr. will start next to Canadian Alex Tagliani. Calvin Fish.
Bob, well, a big story on row 6, the fact that PK Racing have replaced Patrick Lemarrier this weekend with Brian Herta. And Brian has enjoyed so much success here at Laguna Seca. 96, he had that classic last lap battle with Alex Zanardi. Then he came back with back-to-back wins in 98 and 1999. Now, the number 27 Scientific Atlanta car will be driven by Max Pappas for the remainder of the season. The team have high hopes of running Brian Herta in a second machine. Bob?
Thank you, Calvin. On row 8, Tiago Montero crashed in Friday practice and missed the first round of qualifying. He'll be starting next to young Mexican rookie Rodolfo Levine. On row 9, Ryan Hunter-Reay won at this track last year in the Toyota Atlantic Development Series. He'll start next to Swiss rookie Joel Camatias. And on row 10, another new face in the series, Rhode Islander Jeff Boss, his first ever race in a champ car. Tommy Kendall, take us around the track.
I'll tell you what, Laguna Seca is a thrill, and they start right away. Turn 2, the Andretti hairpin is where it's all going to start. Funnel down there on the first lap, and it's also the #1 passing area. Turns 3 and 4 relatively flat, no banking. You get back to turn 5, bank. Turn 6, a good bit of bank. Climb the big hill up to turn 7 and 8. The corkscrew, the signature corner, where they jump off a 5-story drop down in the carousel, or into the corkscrew.
There's the corkscrew right there as we turn to our Bridgestone keys to the race. 2.238 miles around, 11 turns per lap. A lot of shifting, nearly 2,500 gear shifts expected from a top speed of 176 miles an hour. The slowest corners about 40. And pit windows will be key. We have a mandatory pit window. You may go no farther than 24 laps without pitting. The windows open on laps 15, 39, and 63. They close on 24, 48, and 72 if you're going to make the race distance on 3 stops. And now the field forms up side by side. Flagman J.D. Wilbur has the flag. We've got some tire smoke from the middle of the first few rows. It gets a bit scrambled, 3 and 4 wide. Everybody wants to lead lap 1 at Laguna Seca. It is so difficult to pass as they head for the Andretti hairpin.
Usually when you see tire smoke like that, usually it's followed by a crash. That means there's an accordion effect going on at the front of the field. Guys playing games, trying to catch people off guard, or maybe trying to jump the car in front of them.
Let's see if we can see what happened there. Carpentier and Tracy come off the corner. Right-hand column of cars. Tracy locks him up and gets into the back of his teammate on pole.
It looks like Paul was anticipating, and for some reason, Carpentier did not pick up the pace. I don't know if he saw.
Now this is a camera inside the visor of Paul Tracy. We saw the bump just as we got to the shot. There is the damage on the nose of Tracy's number 3. So we'll do it all again. Check our onboard cameras. You already saw Paul Tracy's on board with Michel Jourdain back in 13th place. And this lap will count toward the total of 87, by the way, even though we're running under yellow. On board with Brian Herta, the Scientific Atlanta machine from PK Racing. On board with Mario Dominguez in the Herdez competition machine. And this is Oriol Servia, the young Spaniard, in the Vistion car from Patrick Racing. Sebastian Bourdais, whose father competed in the classic 24-hour endurance race in his hometown of Le Mans, France this weekend. Finished in the top 30.
See a good rubber mark on the front of Paul Tracy's nose. Not clear whether there's any damage or not. And Carpentier gets a good jump. Paul's following him through. And Fernandez is trying to take advantage on the inside of Junqueira as well.
Now Fernandez in the green and orange Tecate car fomented a huge crash at this corner at the start of last year's race. Looks like everybody is going to get through okay this year.
And Haberfeld gets around Bourdais into 5th.
Through turn 3. The corners get increasingly quick as you make your way around. This is 4. Second Herdez competition.
One of the Herdez cars side by side with Jourdain. Jourdain now up alongside Herta. Oh, that was close.
Climbing the hill, looking into the face of Brian Herta. Here comes the corkscrew. Oh, looks like he might get a challenge down the inside. Jourdain goes through.
You see Jourdain actually lost the car under braking, and he was far enough alongside that Bruno was not outside him at that point, was able to gather up without going off the track.
Lunging downhill through turn 10. This is 11, a very slow corner leading onto the front straightaway. All of those tire tracks, many of them lead off to the left wall. His drivers get oversteer and spin. Down again to the Andretti hairpin.
I believe that was Mario Dominguez in the Herdez car that went off on the first lap. Jourdain, they went side by side through turn 4, and Mario ended up going off in the dirt on the exit. Now you see Jourdain in the red and white Higante car. We're on board with Michel right here. Michel's already made up several spots, up to 11th on the grid. He has the quickest car. The question is, can he balance his aggression? This is not a position that he's used to dealing with. When he started back in the pack, it's because he was not quick enough. Now he has a quick car. We're going to see how he deals with the ability to catch people and maybe deal with his frustration if he can't quite get by and then put it in the hands of his pit crew. There's a lot of race left. He needs to just be patient, take cars that offer themselves, but not take any undue risk.
One of his weapons is his pit crew. Two-time winners of the Craftsman Pit Crew Challenge in the Champ Car Series. Let's talk about the race leader, Patrick Carpentier. Calvin Fish.
Well, Patrick has certainly opened up a sizable gap on his teammate Paul Tracy. I spoke to Mike Cannon after the morning warm-up. They had an 8/10 advantage over the rest of the field. He said the car was just magic. He said Pat, in fact, really wasn't losing much time through the corners on full tanks as to qualifying trips. So he said, we're surprised that the balance has come to us so good on race day, Bob.
Second race of the season led by Patrick Carpentier as you go on board with his teammate Paul Tracy. Carpentier also led at Milwaukee, as did this man Tracy, who locked in a great battle with Oriol Servia until his final pit stop. The car fell off the jacks. The wheels were not fully attached to the car. When he got back on track, the left rear came off, and Paul went from a fighting second or third place, possibly a race win, all the way back to 12th. Derek Daly.
Well, as good as things might seem for Paul Tracy, or for Patrick Carpentier, Paul Tracy's car, in about 4 to 6 laps, the handling goes away. I surmise his much more aggressive style uses up the tires, so I do not expect him to mount a huge challenge to the race leader, Patrick Carpentier.
All of the cars on the same compound and construction of Bridgestone Racing Radial tires. As we look at Bruno Junqueira, yet to win a race this year, and a man who is used to winning races. He wears his frustration openly. You can tell when Bruno is not happy, and he wants to win races, even though he's currently in a tie with Tracy for second in the championship. There is Adrian Fernandez, who had a terrible season last year, injured in a couple of massive accidents. Back strongly this year, but not entirely happy with the technical makeup of his team. They've been doing some personnel shuffling, and things are beginning to look up for the only owner driver in the series. There's Mario Haberfeld, Brazilian rookie, a former European and FIA Formula 3000 champion. Once had his sights set on a career in Formula One. He was very happy with his opportunity here in America in the Champ Cars. Now on board with Sebastian Bourdais, climbing the hill. Watch the blind approach to the highest point of the racetrack. And then plunging downhill to his left, down the corkscrew. Working lap number 5 of 87. We'll be back with more as CBS presents the Champ Car Grand Prix of Monterey. Back live to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Patrick Carpentier leads his teammate Paul Tracy and Bruno Junqueira here at the Champ Car Grand Prix of Monterey. I'm Bob Varsha with Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish. Glad to have you with us on an absolutely gorgeous day here on the Monterey Peninsula. Let's look at 6th through 10th. Right now you're riding with Michel Jourdain Jr. Started 13th. The car on the road ahead of him is young British rookie Darren Manning in 10th place. As Jourdain tries to work his way forward after losing his pole position due to a technical violation. This racetrack is overseen by the Sports Car Racing Association of the Monterey Peninsula. It's a unique organization in American motorsports, a not-for-profit corporation that runs this track on land formerly a part of the Fort Ord Military Reservation. They put more than $10 million into local charities here on the Monterey Peninsula. tallied up an economic impact of over $1 billion since the track was opened in 1957. Lovely won the very first race here. Name familiar to auto racing fans. November 9th, 1957 in a 2-liter Ferrari Testarossa. It's the battle for fourth now. Adrian Fernandez in the green and orange car being chased by the MyJack machine from Conquest Racing. Of Mario Haberfeld. Good run for Adrian Fernandez, one of the senior drivers on the circuit, looking for some success. Let's get more on him from Derek Daly.
The only communication Mike Sales, who's the pit-to-car communication with Fernandez, is that he was one of the ones that had the blue tire smoke in that aborted first start, and they were concerned. The only conversation they've had is about a flat-spotted right front. However, they don't think it's a problem. Calvin?
Mario Haberfeld, Derek, has had a great run here this weekend. Most of the time, sheets have seen him up in the top 5. A little disappointed to qualify 7th, but there's no surprise when you look at the background of his engineer, Andy Borum, ex-Penske. He holds the track record with driver Elio Castroneves back here in the year 2000. So they came here strong, developed the car. I think Mario is definitely a factor for a podium finish here today.
He has been at or near the top of the time charts all weekend long.
Derek talked about the concern on the Fernandez car about a flat spot. What happens when you lock the wheel? It's like holding that tire. It's supposed to be round against a belt sander. You get a flat spot, and every time it hits the ground, it sends a vibration through the steering wheel. And additionally, it wants to lock on that spot again when you get into the braking zone. If it's too severe, it'll blur your vision, and you'll have to stop.
On board with Sebastian Bourdais, currently 6th as he passes the pits on the left. Blind brow here. Notice the pavement going away to the driver's right. That is the old 1.9-mile configuration of this racetrack when it ran along the dirt bank. It was refigured in 1988 to 2.2 miles and in 1996 to its current 2.238-mile length.
Show you how the momentum ebbs and flows in this series. Last race on CBS, Sebastian Bourdais had won the oval race in Germany, his 2nd race win in a row. Coming back to Laguna Seca, the first circuit of the year that he'd actually seen before. They tested here in the preseason. He was quick during that preseason test. Newman Haas dominated here last year, and Bourdais has not been that much of a factor. He's been quick, he's been towards the top, but he hasn't shown everyone his heels like people were expecting.
Plunging downhill. A little bit of banking there to help the car maintain speed. Here's a look at the points earned in the last 3 races. Sebastian Bourdais topping the list with 48 total points in that span. Michel Jourdain 2nd with 43. And look at Paul Tracy. After 3 straight victories, he has hit the ultimate dry patch. Has scored just 3 championship points in his last 3 starts.
That aborted start, it was close to a 0 points performance for Paul Tracy. I'm still not quite sure what happened. You can see Bruno was accelerating away, and Patrick did not accelerate as hard. But Paul Tracy, that aggressive nature, gets him in trouble. Was trying to capitalize. Could very well have ended his day 4th race with very few points. Didn't happen that way. He's in a strong 2nd at this point. But that's how narrow the line is between achieving results and being a 0.
Now this guy's been a great story all year long. Sebastian Bourdais came in with a Formula 3000 championship in Europe to his credit, but I don't think anybody expected he would do what he has done, stepping into a front-ranked car with the Newman Haas team, co-owned by businessman Carl Haas and actor racer Paul Newman. Pole and 2 victories. Derek Daly.
And Bob, successful teams don't like to make too many big changes, but there is a change for Bourdais this weekend. Kenny Seawick, the assistant team manager, is usually on the radio calling his races. Kenny is not here this weekend, although it's Father's Day. Kenny is looking after his mother, who's having surgery this weekend. And now the duties of engineer and race strategy calling falls to Craig Hampson, who will do both jobs, and I'm sure do both jobs very well for this young man.
I'm sure he will, and you can be sure that Sebastian Bourdais was happy to see us come walking toward him with CBS Eye on the mic flags. He is 2 for 2 here on CBS. On the road course at Brands Hatch in England, and then the Euro Speedway Lausitz in Germany, the first 2 victories of Sebastian Bourdais' career. Here's Rodolfo Levine from the Walker Racing team, Calvin Fish.
Some kind of gearbox problem down here, Bob. He was getting high gearbox pressure and high temperature as well. Actually, no pressure and high temperature. So team who brought him in. Big disappointment. The Reynards have been really strong here at Laguna. The smoother the racetrack, the stronger these Reynards run. If they have to raise the ride height of the car, it takes away the downforce element with these race cars and certainly affects performance, Bob.
Tough break for the Corona team. There's the race leader, Patrick Carpentier. Last time it was measured, his gap nearly 2.5 seconds over his teammate Paul Tracy. We'll be back to Laguna Seca. Grand Prix of Monterey, more problem in the Walker Racing pits. To the left, Darren Manning's car is pushed behind the wall. Levine's car, his teammate, is still parked in the pit lane. Let's go to Calvin Fish.
Well, disaster within one lap there, Bob, for both of the Walker Racing cars. Darren, what put you out today?
Well, it seemed like we had fluctuating oil pressure. The engine was getting really, really loud. It was as if like the exhaust had broken or something. I was running, but they were seeing too many spikes on the oil pressure, so we can't risk the engine there. You know, I got blocked a little bit on the start by Sebastian. I don't know what he was doing. I guess he was trying to stay out of trouble, but then about 3 or 4 other guys came right around the outside of it. It was a bit of a shame for the pair of us, but... you know, shame because we worked so hard from the beginning of the weekend to get up onto grid 7 there, so a bit of a shame for the RAC Walker car.
Well, a short day for Darren Manning coming off that 4th place finish at Milwaukee, but he had a great qualifying run. They'll try and rebound next week at Portland, Bob.
The whole field is slowing down. I think the tires are just getting slippery. It'll be better the next set.
I believe that was Greg Hampson talking to Sebastian Bourdais, was it not, TK?
To say for sure who that was, but that is the common complaint here at Laguna Seca. And the Bridgestone tires at almost every track we go to deviate very little from the first lap of the stint to the last. They usually get quicker as the fuel load burns off and the car gets lighter. What's happened here at Laguna Seca seems to be unique to this, is more like you're used to in racing. The tires fall off gradually, and the drivers are starting to complain. The front of the car slides, the back of the car slides, the whole car slides together, and the lap times get slower and slower. And so the drivers aren't used to this. They call and complaining to the crew. The crew reassures you, and that makes a big difference. They say everybody looks to be in the same shape. Then you know you just have to deal with it. It's not a problem particular to your car.
Great view from on board Paul Tracy's helmet. That's right. You are inside the visor of Paul Tracy's helmet. The sunscreen across the top. And that is pretty much an eye-level view from inside one of these 750 horsepower Ford-powered race cars.
And that is the gap to the leader, Patrick Carpentier, out in front. You heard Carpentier say how happy he was with his car, and how Paul said on used tires he was not happy with his, but they're running the same lap time, and Carpentier is really not getting away.
Working lap number 17, meaning the early pit window is now open. You can pit now and still make the finish on 3 stops. Expect the front-running cars to come in on lap 24.
I was waiting to see if perhaps Michel Jourdain would come in on lap 16 when that window opened and get out of sequence. What we mean by out of sequence is the normal preferred strategy is you go as long as you can, which means to lap 24. But because Jourdain feels like knows he has the fastest car in the field, he's stuck behind cars and he can't show that speed. If he were to come in, if his crew wanted to gamble a little bit, he could come in. It's a risky strategy, but if he really is quick, he can make up enough gap with no cars in front of him. The fact that they've chosen to stay in line tells me they've more or less settled for a less than stellar result rather than rolling the dice. They're taking the long view of this for the championship. They say, you know what, if he can pick off a car here or there, and we can pick off a car or 2 in the pits, maybe a top 5. So to me, that's kind of a little bit of waving the white flag and just trying to get the best they can out of this weekend rather than rolling the dice for a win.
Once again, here's how the pit windows lay out. Laps 15 to 24 the first window, then 39 to 48 for the second, 63 to 72 for the third.
There are a number of reasons why the lead guys will always stop on the longest run on each particular window. The main reason being that when the tires are hot, the lap time is much quicker than the very first lap out of the pits after your stop. If you stop on lap 15 in your cumulative time for the stint, you'll have some slow laps before the tires get up to temperature, and that might offset any time you gain by being faster on a clear track. It's complicated. We try to come up with different ways to explain this, but the fact that nobody's on that strategy means we don't have to spend too much time with it.
Yeah, but that's part of the fun of motorsports, particularly here in the kart champ cars. Big smoke off the left front, the unloaded tire on the front of Alex Tagliani as Johnson controls Lola.
That raises the potential that maybe he flat spotted that tire again. You know, when the tire is frozen, the road racing by just shaves rubber off until it's basically square on that side. And that was locked up for long enough that I would have to think he at least has a small flat spot. And that does not get better. It does not shave itself round again. It tends to get worse.
Probably done it on a street car at one time or another. If you don't have anti-lock braking systems, you'll do what that driver, Tiago Montero, just ahead of Mario Dominguez did. Lock up a wheel and just melt that rubber off the contact patch.
Yeah, you got to give a nod to Tiago Montero. A number of the rookies have really had good runs. Darren Manning had that RAC car up at 7th on the grid. Montero's been in the top 10 all the sessions except the ones that counted. So he's starting with that. But Mario Haberfeld, another one, very, very quick. All guys in Reynard cars, all rookies that have never seen this track before.
Once again, the two cars officially out of the race at this point, both from Walker Racing, Rodolfo Levine and Darren Manning.
The guy in front of you locks up. You want to try to capitalize on it. You saw Tagliani fall back closer to Montero. When they got up to the corkscrew, Montero says, that's a tough place to pass. Very few people have done it. We saw Alex Zanardi make that heroic pass to win the race in '96. But you saw Montero made a run at Tagliani, but then he got his brakes locked up, and you see Tagliani in the blue car started to stretch it back out.
Climbing the hill to turn 6. Montero, Dominguez, Ryan Hunter-Ray, the young American rookie from Boca Raton, Florida, right there behind Dominguez. And an interesting weekend for Tiago Montero, driving for Fittipaldi Dingman Racing. That's James Dingman, a businessman and a racing legend. Emerson Fittipaldi, former Formula One world champion and kart champ car title holder. His team was very late in coming together. They picked this relatively unknown Portuguese driver to be their pilot, and he has done very, very well. One of the rookie revelations of the 2003 season.
I'd like to give a shout out to Jamie Dingman, Emerson Fittipaldi's partner. Jamie is kind of the silent partner. All the attention's been on Emerson, but Jamie is the son of a former teammate of mine. Jamie's only 29 years old, and he is really digging in. This is where he wants to be. Even when Mike was my teammate, his father, all he said back when he was 21 years old, oh, and you saw Montero, this was from Friday where he got in trouble right and missed the first round of qualifying that set them behind. What I was starting to say about Jamie is he never wanted to be a driver, always wanted to be a team owner, and now that dream's come true at 29 years old. He is also the driving force behind a movement to try to get a race on the streets of St. Petersburg, Russia. Spent 6 years of his business career in Russia, lots of contacts, and by leveraging Emerson's visibility with people like Marlboro and so forth, they're trying to get a street race. So Jamie is a guy who really wants to make a career and become the next Roger Penske in champ car racing.
I'll do that race. There's your race leader, Patrick Carpentier, 31-year-old Canadian, who, as Derek Daly mentioned, has been running in the shadow of his teammate Paul Tracy, with whom you now ride, for much of this season. But Carpentier is a proven winner. He swept both races in the state of Ohio last year on CBS, Cleveland and Mid-Ohio. And right now, he's out front. CBS Sports coverage of the Champ Car Grand Prix of Monterey will continue after this message and a word from your local station. Rappel down a mountain, take a spin in a race car, face unexpected obstacles, and find out why one team won't take this flight. Don't miss the all-new Amazing Race, Thursday at 8, 7 Central on CBS.
Look what we have here. He's Mario Dominguez struggling with his car, got off in front of Patrick Carpentier. Carpentier got off on the right side, entering the corkscrew. Dominguez was fighting cold tires after having made his pit stop.
Okay, Paul, we're going to pit this lap. Pit this lap for fuel and tires. Copy.
And look how close Paul Tracy is to his teammate. This is the thing that Paul really prides himself on. He says, the only time you'll see me really show what I've got is right before the stops. He wants to be right on Patrick's gearbox, if he can, coming into the pits.
And this will be extra interesting because they are Players Forsyth teammates. They'll be pitting nose to tail, and the crews will be in a race of their own.
And Pat off in turn 4.
Traffic ahead.
Now this is a situation where Paul Tracy smells blood. It's always the hardest for the first car to get to the traffic.
That's Alex Tagliani up ahead. He too has pitted. He is on cold tires.
Pat's the guy who has to force the issue on traffic. The second car through has the advantage of the guy knowing that their car's coming through. Let's see if Paul can capitalize.
They'll be pitting this time. Derek Daly awaits both of the players' teammates, Patrick Carpentier, the race leader, and Paul Tracy. Here we go.
Okay, Paul, you're going to have to come around patch, guys. We're going to put it right on the marks like every other time this weekend. Perfect on the marks. It's going to be fuel and tires.
Patrick Carpentier stops first.
Reset
Remember
fuel,
how
pit lane cruise
demon
off.
Paul Tracy is on cold tires. Patrick is staring at Tracy. He's staring at Tracy.
Ready,
Still
ready.
stares.
Go, 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 go,
There they go. Calvin.
Mario Haberfeld currently been very happy with the Reynard. There'll be no changes. Went for the last round of fuel. Good stuff by the Conquest boys.
Well, and you noticed what the players' team did. They pitted their men on either side of the cut-through in the wall, where the cars go through the wall back to the paddock. So they had extra space, and they needed all of it on that pit stop exchange. Tracy all over his teammate. He knows they're both on cold tires, and here's another opportunity for him to strike.
It's his best chance to get by, and it's also the riskiest. You have two stops that were more identical by team cars.
Doesn't look like he'll be able to pull up on Carpentier. So round one goes to the French-speaking Canadian, since both drivers are from Canada. Quebec in the case of Patrick Carpentier, Ontario in the case of Paul Tracy.
Both now living in Las Vegas. And Derek Daly in the open mentioned that this is a double-edged sword for Carpentier. He's been in Paul's shadow. Now he's in front. He's the guy out front, but he also has additional pressure. If you want some idea on how Carpentier deals with pressure, look back to Mid-Ohio last year. Was hounded all race long. Was hounded all.
I don't think so. I think we're about even.
All right, that battle is now cooled. During that round of pit stops, Sebastian Bourdais jumped from 6th up to 4th. Great stop by his team. Let's get more on the other stops with Derek Daly.
Particularly the players' team. It was a phenomenal display by these two teams. Now, Mike Cannon, Patrick Carpentier's engineer, just told me on new, fresh tires, Carpentier is a little bit quicker. As soon as the tires get worn a bit, Tracy comes on or can handle the worn tires a little bit better. That's why we saw this accordion effect as we see a car stationary almost at the corkscrew. Calvin?
11 cars off the corkscrew, but meanwhile, down in the Haberfeld pit, very happy with that pit stop. They had a good, clean stop. They got out-jumped by Bourdais. They're questioning whether that team got a full tank load of fuel in the car. The big loser in that pit stop shuffle was Adrian Fernandez, lost in 4th place all the way back to 6th.
All right, now let's go back and take another look at that dual pit stop action in the players' four-side pits. As Carpentier and Tracy came in together, they have a gap between the two cars. Carpentier moves first. Tracy had a car ahead of him. I think that might be Adrian Fernandez's car. He had to be a little more delicate getting out, and that's all the opportunity Carpentier needed. Here's a look at the pit summary. Carpentier came in first, went out first. Same for Tracy, no change. Same for Junqueira in 3rd, but Fernandez fell back 2 spots. Haberfeld held station, and as I mentioned, Sebastian Bourdais picked up 2 spots, thanks to a good stop from the Newman Haas crew. Paul Newman was here this weekend to announce that his favorite charity, the Hole in the Wall Gang chain of camps for seriously ill children, has now become the official charity of the championship auto racing teams. Great cause.
It's more than a great cause. Paul Newman, a lot of guys do their charity work where they can fit it. Paul fits everything else around his charity. Newman's own company has donated $125 million in profits to charity. The Hole in the Wall Gang is something that he's championed, and they're starting to spring up all over the country. A lot of guys do it, it seems, out of a sense of guilt. Paul, that's just what he's about. He thinks that generosity is Americans' greatest strength, and he wants to be out there leading that charge. And really is a remarkable individual. You can't get him to say anything in interviews, but where it counts, he's putting his money where his mouth is.
On board with Mario Dominguez. You saw him sawing away at that wheel, fighting the race car. This is turn 6. A little bit of a dip right in the middle of it. And climbing the hill. This is a blind entry to the corkscrew turn. And the road moves left and right as well as up and down. Down the corkscrew they come. Now Michel Jourdain, our erstwhile pole sitter who started 13th in the field, is now up into 9th. He picked up a spot on the pit stop. Let's go to Derek Daly.
With Al Spire, Executive Director for Bridgestone Motorsports. Al, the challenge continues. We've now been on ovals, street circuits. Now we run to road courses. What type of changes, Al, do your engineers make for tires and racetracks like this?
Well, you know, the easiest thing I can say, Derek, we were in Long Beach, the streets of Long Beach earlier this year. Average speed there was about 100 miles an hour. Here it's about 115. So we modify the tires. We actually make the sidewall a little bit stiffer on the tire or stronger with some stronger court layup. And that gives the drivers better stability control in the high-speed corners. And we also harden up the tread compound to make it more durable to withstand higher heat.
Even if a driver asks you for a nice soft compound, you don't give it to them?
Well, they all ask for a softer compound tire, but they all get the same ones, and we try to make it good for everybody.
And that's straight from the boss himself. Thanks, Al.
All right, thanks, Derek. I tell you, the tire technology is a fascinating subject. Most folks think they're just round and black, but the technology in tires makes them arguably the most important single component in the performance of contemporary racing cars. Let's get more on them now with Calvin.
Well, a big change for this year, of course, Bob, is the fact that the drivers no longer have traction control, so tire management is an issue here on a track that's historically very hard on the tires. We spoke to Oriol Servia's team. They said the back pretty good until about lap 17. Then the rears started to go off a little bit. So the guys on these full runs now are going to have to be very delicate as to how hard they get on the power early in the run. So there's some tires left at the end.
On board with Oriol Servia, the Vistion car from Patrick Racing. Pat Patrick, one of the founders of championship auto racing teams 25 years ago. And his team manager, Jim McGee, has been doing this for 44 years. There's so much experience in that Patrick Racing pit. Servia coming off a second-place finish on the Milwaukee Mile 2 weeks ago, the best of his young champ car career. There's Jimmy Vasser in the blue and red car from American Spirit Team Johansson, owned by current racing driver Stefan Johansson, who was on the third-place finishing team at this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans, a race that ended just a few hours ago in France. Let's get more on Jimmy Vasser with Calvin.
Well, Jimmy has had a very strong weekend. He, again, very happy with the Reynards on this racetrack, but a problem on his pit stop. They couldn't get the redhead, that's the fuel filling system, into the car. Big delay there, and that's what ultimately cost him his track position to Oriol Servia.
Vasser currently 8th, Servia in 7th. Calvin mentioned a Reynard. That's one of the 2 different chassis brands in the series, the other being the Lola. Reynard Company, what development there is being done on that company, which ran into financial difficulties a year ago, is being done by the Walker Racing team. Generally speaking, the Lola is the chassis to have. It is still under active development. The Reynard can be a very difficult chassis to manage, and that's what Jimmy Vasser has right now. Let's go to Derek Daly.
Here with Bobby Rahal. Bobby, Michel looks good. I know you made a downforce change in that pit stop, but is it all according to plan?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, we're a second on the lap quicker when we're off by ourselves. We caught up to Jimmy Vasser, and now we're kind of stuck. But, you know, we'll just have to try to get by him. We put more front downforce in it because it was understeering too much. But we'll see. It's tough to pass. Hopefully we won't lose, you know, too much. We won't lose too much to the leaders in this.
Bobby, why not take a gamble and go out of sequence?
Well, we thought seriously about doing it, but then it would have put us right behind Jeff Boss. It's a much slower car, and that we would have got caught up in that then. So we were kind of stuck.
Thanks, Bob.
Understeering means the car will not turn in the way the driver wants it to. Michel Jourdain with Jimmy Vasser up ahead, plunging downhill through turn 9, headed back toward the paddock area. Coming around to complete lap 32. 56 laps remaining. We are on the road with the champ cars, and we'll be back. continues. You're on board with Paul Tracy. Here's a look at the top 10. Patrick Carpentier, Tracy's teammate, leads. I'm Bob Barsha with Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish. And we are joined in our booth by Darren Manning, who sadly just climbed out of his Walker Racing RAC-sponsored Reynard. Darren, you and your teammate Rodolfo Levine are both out of the race, but for entirely separate mechanical issues, you say?
Yeah, that's right. Rodolfo went out with gearbox problems, gearbox pressure, and mine, unfortunately, I thought it was something with the exhaust, because it was getting really, really loud, and there was a big vibration coming from the rear end of the car, but it looks like we were losing oil pressure, unfortunately, so they had to pull me in.
How is the track out there and the limited laps you got?
Pretty slick at the moment. You know, it was just starting to get cleaned up. These cars, on this track, you know, as you can see on the sides of the circuit, it's pretty dusty out there. The Simple Green guys, you know, they do a good job of blowing the circuit, but it takes a few laps of these 19 cars to really clean it up.
Let's take a moment and go down to the players' Forsyth pits. Derek Daly is standing by.
With team manager Neil Mickelwright. Neil, that was a spectacular first set of pit stops. Is it right to say there are no team orders in this team?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. You know, certainly at this stage of the season, we feel that both of our drivers have equal opportunity to win the championship, and as such, hopefully it's one of our guys that wins. It'll just be the quickest of the two.
Now, although Neil is sitting down, it's not because he wants to relax. It's because yesterday he fell off the pit wall, all but broke his ankle. It's in a cast. He now has crutches, but he insists on being here.
Darren, something you saw from Paul's onboard got your attention. What were you?
That wasn't a normal line through turn 2. It was pretty. He's pushing pretty hard. You know, he's running all the way over the white curbs and everything, but he ran really, really wide and just managed to keep it out of the dirt on the outside of turn 2 there.
We're climbing to the corkscrew. You've been telling us all weekend, Darren, you've been looking forward to your first experience of this corner. How was it?
This is fantastic. You know, the circuit just drops away. It's totally blind. You can't see the second apex. It's just one of the great corners in the world on any racetrack. You know, it's right up there with Eau Rouge at Spa-Francorchamps. It's fantastic.
Two of the great circuits in Europe. Now, in that white car from PK Racing, that is Brian Herta running in 12th. Just behind him, Mario Dominguez in 13th. Let's get more on that situation from Calvin Fish.
We're down here with a face many of the Champ Car fans will recognize. Mauricio Gugelmin, welcome back. We see you now advising the PK Racing team. Big change since Milwaukee with the driver lineup. What's the situation?
Well, basically, it's the first time Brian drove a Lola since 1994. He's still getting used to it, but we also got some new information. He's been very good at this place, so we're looking forward to run better in the future races.
We understand we're going to have Mad Max back next week.
Yeah, I think the fans will love this, and it's great to have Max back. And we're working very hard to have another car with Brian as well.
Well, great to see you back. Certainly the team is looking to improve this situation. It's a brand new team, got together late, and really starting to show some signs of form, Bob.
No question about that. It'll be good to have Mad Max back in the series. Good to have Brian Herta around, too. Max isn't here this weekend. He's coming back from France, where he finished 5th overall in the 24 hours just this weekend.
And we heard drivers at the end of that stint complaining about the grip really going away. There's two things going on. The track's getting clean from the dirt. The actual surface itself, or the tires going away here, which is unusual for the Bridgestone?
Well, I believe so. You know, 24 laps around here is pretty hard on these Bridgestone tires. You know, probably the last 5-6 laps, it's really getting pretty slick, and the temperature's rising all the time. You know, it's pretty cool out there in the wind, but surface temperature's just going up and up, which makes it really, really slick for these cars.
Now, when the grip starts to go away, is it one end or the other? Is it a balance issue, or is it overall grip?
Depends which car you're in, I think, there, Tommy. You know. We definitely were getting quite a big push there at the beginning of the race, which we were hoping was going to come back to more neutral when the car was getting quite lighter on fuel towards the end of the stint. But I don't know about these levelers. They look pretty nailed to me.
Now, the Reynards as a whole were closer to the front this weekend. Is that because the circuit is smooth?
Well, I'm not too sure, really. There was, you know, it's getting further and further into the season for us guys. You know, as rookies in these Reynards. You know, Jimmy was up there as well. You know, he's pretty experienced on this circuit. I think it helped. So there was a pre-season test here. A lot of the guys did. I unfortunately hadn't signed by that stage and didn't manage to do the test. So Mario and Jimmy got well up there, and probably because of that.
Now, you've been competitive in the series right away. You led laps at Rockingham, your very first race last year. Talk to us some personal on-track stories about some of these guys. Which guys have really opened your eyes, maybe are not as tame as they seem, or some guys that seem tame out of the car, they're real tigers in. Tell us some personal
none
stories.
of them, I believe you me, that none of them are tame out on the track. You know, totally separate. It's a bit split personality disease for racing drivers. Once those helmets go on, you know, Pat and you know, I had a great wheel-to-wheel battle for several laps with Pat Carpentier there on screen, you know, at Germany, you know, where we could run really side by side. We were interlocking wheels and everything. And then at Milwaukee, where we had a really good car. Ooh, Pat nearly lost it coming around the outside of Ryan Hunter-Ray there, I think it was.
Yes, it was Ryan Hunter-Ray.
But yeah, and Tracy at Milwaukee, you know, we had a really fast car there, and I was able to overtake quite a few cars through the race. And one of the guys that really didn't let me pass too easily was the man on screen, Paul Tracy. You know, he didn't give me an inch. You know, if I'd have got a little bit of understeer, we'd have been collected each other.
There's Bruno Junqueira chasing the yellow car of Joel Camatias. Interesting sponsorship there. It comes from Camatias' hometown of Lugano in Switzerland. The town sponsors the young racing driver. Let's look at Bruno Junqueira as his march toward the race leaders goes on. Let's get more from Derek Daly.
Bob, he's catching Paul Tracy at about 4 to 5/10 of a second per lap. But have a look at this here. Tommy, you mentioned flat-spotted tires. This is the flat-spotted front that came from Bruno Junqueira's car. You can see how he locked the brake and just absolutely tortured the rubber off this one spot. And you can see he was losing air immediately. It's now flat, but you're down to the canvas. Tortured and flat-spotted that right front.
And talk about going into turn 2, why it's so hard to, why it's so easy to flat spot a tire here at Laguna Seca.
Well, you can see here at Laguna going into turn 2, there's no real straightaway. You know, you're turning all the time, and here at the corkscrew as well, the inside wheel is off the ground, and when you're braking quite hard, so when the wheel comes back in contact with the circuit, it just locks up. And into turn 2, you're turning all the time, and the outside wheel's loaded up, the inside wheel's really light and locks so easily.
So basically, you either have a choice of backing off to the wheel that has the lightest wheel, or and giving up a lot of speed, or really carrying it in there and risking a flat spot.
Absolutely, yeah. You can see he's obviously pushing quite hard to try and catch the leaders there.
Patrick Carpentier under tremendous pressure from his teammate Paul Tracy. The second of 3 anticipated pit windows is now open. You can make a stop now and still finish the race on just one more stop. Calvin Fish.
Well, a question for Darren Manning up in the booth. I mean, recently Cardiff instituted the no blocking rule. They used to allow one move. Now at Milwaukee, they took that away. On a road course, Darren, it's a lot more subtle. What do the drivers feel about the no blocking rule when it comes to a situation like today with 2 cars running close together?
Yeah, I mean, there was mixed feelings in the drivers' briefing yesterday afternoon, you know, but here at Laguna, it's very difficult to pass. Like we were just saying about, there's no real straightaway. Even the front stretch between turn 11 and through 1 and into 2, it's a constant radius corner, you know. So I think it's good for the racing, though, because there's going to be no backing up at all.
You kind of have to. You have to reprogram yourself. You're used to, you know, shading a little bit, cheating the line a little bit here, and sometimes it only takes that. At Milwaukee, especially, you had to go against second nature.
Yeah, big time. You know, Milwaukee was good. You know, we ran in big downforce configuration, so we could run real side by side, and the new no blocking rule, as we see Paul run wide at turn 2 again. You know, it was really good for the fans, you know.
Carpentier off at 3. This is Tracy's opportunity. That's right, he can't come across his teammate's bow unless his racing line takes him there.
Lucky that Paul probably made that mistake at turn 2, because he dropped off the back of Pat there, just into turn 3, where Pat made the mistake.
And look at here, Bruno Junqueira is now right on Tracy's gearbox.
This is what happens when the tires get towards the end of their life. Guys are pushing hard. You saw Paul Tracy make a mistake in turn 2, Carpentier in 3, and now so they got pressure coming from behind. Paul Tracy's team's telling him, don't worry, your chance will come. He's saying, hey guys, what about this guy who's catching us from behind? He can't sit around and be too patient.
It might have actually been good for Bruno to have that blistered tire, because the team may have made an adjustment in that pit stop to help him with the blistered tires there, so it might have helped him a little bit.
Let's go back and take a look at what happened. On board Tracy.
Look up ahead, the car in the distance, that's Carpentier. Gets the right front lock, the light wheel lock, entering turn 3, doesn't get a turn. I'm surprised that Paul, the track being so slippery. Ooh, a big moment for Paul when he got right underneath the turbulent air behind Carpentier's rear wing.
Man, it's an all skate out there.
But even with Carpentier having that trouble, you just want to pounce on the guy, but it's so slippery he couldn't jump after the throttle. So you see the guy looks like a sitting duck, but there is really nothing that Paul can do.
Well, I mentioned Patrick Carpentier won at Mid-Ohio last year. Throughout most of that race, he was under extraordinary pressure from the eventual series champion, Cristiano D'Amata. In the end, D'Amata went off. Carpentier went on to win. We'll be back. Welcome back live to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Round 7 of the Bridgestone presents the Champ Car World Series powered by Ford. The Grand Prix of Monterey. Bob Varsha, Tommy Kendall, joined by Darren Manning in the announce booth. Derek Daly and Calvin Fisher in the pit lane. And Patrick Carpentier is out front with the second of his 3 anticipated pit stops looming on the horizon. This is a big weekend for the Ford Motor Company, and since all of the Champ cars are powered by turbocharged Ford Cosworth engines, we thought we'd take this opportunity to salute the folks from the Blue Oval. Yes, it was raining in Dearborn as company chairman Bill Ford drove the latest F-150 pickup in celebration of Ford's first centennial. Of course, it all started with Henry Ford and his famous Model T. But few people know that Henry Ford actually financed the early stages of his streetcar company with racing. Jim Clark, the famous Ford V8 line that won world championships. A.J. Foyt and Dan Gurney winning at Le Mans. And Mario Andretti using Ford power to win the 1978 Formula One World Championship. Of course, Mario had a long string of success in Ford-powered Champ cars as well. Racing, very much a part of the makeup of Ford Motor Company, celebrating its 100th anniversary this weekend. Here's a look at our race summary. 1 leader, Patrick Carpentier, who was surprised at about 6 o'clock Pacific time last night to find out he was on pole position after the guy who earned it on the racetrack, Michel Jourdain, was found to be underweight in post-race inspection and was bumped back to 13th on the grid based on his first-round qualifying time. Carpentier has been absolutely immaculate, leading from the get-go.
Look at it getting closer. Looking at the back of Mario Dominguez's car as he ducks in the pits. Carpentier got crossed up big time coming out of the corkscrew.
Top 3 cars in the running in your picture. Carpentier, Tracy, and Junqueira.
And what a difference from last year. Last year we had a race which was pretty much a parade. The traction control took all of those scary moments where the guys were fighting, putting the power down, fighting the wheel spin as the track got slippery. Now they're earning their money. Big difference watching the in-car this year versus last year.
Jeff Boss pulls the Dale Coyne Racing yellow car off to one side to let the leaders come through. Next car up the road will be Brian Herta.
Darren's looking at the times on the monitor. They were in traffic, but the leaders' times were in the 15s. Guys back in the pack on clear track in the low 1 minute 13 second range.
Quick question for TK. One thing that may play out here, some strategy with how much fuel is put in here, TK. If you think about it, they can split the rest of the race at about a 20-lap stint instead of the full 24, so they could save maybe 4 laps of fuel on this stop and then do the same thing on the next one. Just try and gain that extra half a second in the pit stop, maybe gain some track position here.
That's a great point, Calvin. What that's called, they call that a short fill, meaning they don't fill the tank up all the way. What happens is there's sometimes, and Paul Tracy slipped up coming off of Bruno. 11 there.
Hitting next time around.
The fuel is usually the limiting factor on a fuel stop, on how the fuel is what takes the longest. If you get into a short fuel situation, they might say, you know what, as soon as the tire changes are done, we're going to send the car to try to maybe, Bruno's team might try that to leap around Paul or possibly both cars. But if you short fill too much, you might have to be stationary longer on the next stop.
We are 47 laps in, 40 laps to go. We're past halfway. Patrick Carpentier has led all the laps to this point, so he picks up a championship bonus point for leading the most laps in the race, raising his season total to 50.
And it's interesting, you see Carpentier make a slip up, spin the tires coming off the corkscrew. Paul does it coming off turn 12. It just underscores how hard it is under these conditions to run consistent, perfect laps.
Yeah, the teams will be telling Paul and Bruno to really push hard, to be really close coming in for this pit stop right underneath the gearbox of the car in front. So let's see what they look like coming into the pits.
The top three are coming in nose to tail. Oh, and there's all kinds of tire smoke. Tracy almost got into the back of Carpentier. Derek Daly awaits the players' teammates. Bruno Junqueira will peel off at the Newman Haas pit area.
Ironically, trying to get close actually cost Paul some distance.
And this is hair scarum time. No changes to Carpentier except half a pound more tire pressures. Junqueira's right behind. Tracy. There they go. Oh, Tracy hits one of Fernandez wheels on the way out. Calvin.
Mario Haberfeld is in, and Adrian Fernandez and Serbia right behind him. So the same situation here, 5, 6, and 7. Good start, looks for Haberfeld again. Fuel, no changes, he's back underway. 4 Bridgestones, he beat Serbia out and be tight with Fernandez.
So Paul Tracy got into one of Adrian Fernandez's tires on the way out, and then he nearly got into the back of his teammate down in turn 2, getting all locked up as they race on cold tires for the lead. There's Fernandez getting way, way wide, and Oriol Servia goes underneath him.
This is where it's really important to try and make up time, as you see Michel going past, or trying to go past Adrian there. On these tyres, they're pretty hard compound to last a distance, and on these first few laps, they're really, really slippery. See Michel getting sideways.
Now this is an interesting battle. Fernandez ahead on the road. These two Mexican countrymen went out a couple of nights ago to do a little belated celebrating of Michel Jourdain's first career victory. I understand it got very ugly.
Well, Adrian does not drink very much at all, so Michel says, I got to take my chances when I can. And look, he pulls alongside. Nice, clean pass on relatively cold tires into the corkscrew. But he said, you know, I had to go for it. And, was feeding the tequila to Adrian to celebrate that first career win.
Now, Michel Jourdain is now up to 7th place.
Team Rahal again did their job. I think got him 1 spot on the stop, and then Michel got himself 1 on cold tires.
All right, nice job. Drive down, Oriol.
Be interesting to see the Paul Tracy hitting that tire, leaving the pits. If that is going to bring a penalty, Paul was just telling his crew there was nothing I could do. It was right in front of me.
Let's take another look at what happened to Paul Tracy during that pit sequence as Patrick Carpentier consolidates his lead once again with 1 more stop to come. On board with Tracy. There he had to lock him up to avoid getting into the back of his teammate.
Now they're up so hard to get close. He got them all locked up. The engine lugged. He got his hands even messed up too, and created about a 2-car length gap. He comes into the second pits.
Now let's watch from outside once again. Whoa! Junqueira right on Tracy's gearbox as they pull in. And now watch, Carpentier is to the left of your screen. A little bit of an awkward getaway for him. And Tracy lights up the rears and gets into a tire that was, well, perhaps not at the wrong location, but certainly awfully close to his car. On board with Tracy, watch the right side. Oh.
That was a big just set it down right in front.
Yeah, the guys out there, they try and give a little bit. There's a courtesy line where the mechanics are not allowed to put any of their equipment, air hoses or anything, and they try and help out a little bit, but obviously Adrian was just about to come in, so he was getting his tire down.
Now that long brake lockup coming out of the pits, we talked about flat spotting. It's not as big a danger when the tires are cold. They don't generate the grip. It doesn't sand as much of the rubber off that spot of the tire, but it's locked up for a good long ways.
You see it's coming under pressure from Bruno there, and Patrick's getting out of the way.
You were talking about ruthless racers earlier, Darren. Bruno Junqueira is up there with the best of them.
It was quite interesting as well. I saw Bruno, they were really hot. He didn't fuel to tires. The tires were done and the fuel was still in the car, so he's got a lot of fuel on board.
So it looks like they're going to probably try to make their last stop their short one.
Absolutely. If he can stay underneath the gearbox of Tracy, it might work in his favour.
Let's go to Derek Daly on Paul Tracy.
With Neil Micklewright, the team manager. Neil, you just watched our replays on Tracy's pit stop. He could have been taken out with that incident. What was your read on it?
I think that, obviously it's a very close call. The car was already lit. He was already sideways and driving out of the pit when the guy next door put the right rear out for Fernandez. So It's unfortunate that the guy couldn't see his way clear to giving us a bit of a break there, but I guess that's the way it goes.
Do you suspect there's any damage, Neil?
We have no reason at this time to think that there is any, but it was a fairly heavy hit, but right now everything seems to be fine.
Thank you.
Well, that was rather elegantly put, I thought.
I was going to say, you Brits have a nice way with things. Couldn't see his way clear.
Well, Adrian was coming in, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's Oriol Servia in 6th. There's Michel Jourdain Jr. in 7th. We mentioned Ford earlier. All of these cars using 750 horsepower turbocharged 2.65-liter Ford Cosworth engines that have been specially built to give long engine service, up to 1,200 miles of hard use. How hard? Michel Jourdain Jr. used a single engine for practice, qualifying, and a race of 311 miles at top speed at the Euro Speedway Lausitz, then came back to America and used the same engine for practice. There was no qualifying, it was rained out, but then ran the entire 258-mile race on the Milwaukee Mile with no loss of horsepower or performance. 3rd in Germany, 1st in Milwaukee. These engines are amazing.
It's nice to see that theory matches reality. Everybody comes up with these savings before the season, but that the engine did it and proved it in the best possible way, put them in winner's circle.
As Carpentier draws away a little bit. Oh, Bruno Junqueira is sliding all 4 wheels in his attempts to get to Paul Tracy. Calvin Fish.
Well, as Bruno's getting sideways, his team is actually looking at the rule book. I think they're looking at the rules to see if that is an infraction as to what Tracy did in the pit lane. Obviously, there's a gentleman's agreement here. It really wasn't PT's fault, more the fault of Adrian's crew putting the tire out there. But they certainly looked at the rule. I think they're comfortable with it. They're not going to create any waves here today.
Well, that's a gentlemanly move on their part.
That's only because they don't think they can create waves. Trust me. If they can get Paul Tracy flagged in, they'd be all over it.
I'm working hard to give him the benefit of the doubt. Thanks, TK.
It'll be interesting to see if Bruno can bridge that gap again after losing that time. As you see, he closes right up on the back of Paul. I mean, maybe if he knocked a little bit of the toe out on the rear, knocking. It was pretty hard hit. So
car leapt up in the air.
You know, 0.5 millimeter on the rear toe could really destroy the handling of these cars.
We already established Newman's charitable activities that do not extend to the racetrack.
And being as good a racer as he is, and he is a very good one at age 78, Paul Newman would be the first to agree with you. We want to thank Darren Manning for joining us here at our announced position. We're going to take a break. CBS Sports coverage of the Champ Car Grand Prix of Monterey will continue after this message and a word from your local station. Auto racing coverage highlighting your favorite drivers in headlines, standings, results, and more. Just click on Customize at cbssportsline.com or on America Online. Enter keyword CBS Sportsline. Welcome back to Monterey, California on an absolutely beautiful day. Not far from great golf courses such as Pebble Beach and 17-Mile Drive and John Steinbeck's legendary Cannery Row. Steinbeck, quite the local hero, though it wasn't always that way here in the Monterey Salinas area. His advocacy for farm workers and so on led him to be a somewhat unpopular man for a long time. And now there's a beautiful museum to one of America's greatest novelists over in Salinas, and definitely worth a trip. There is your race leader, Patrick Carpentier, who started from pole position when Michel Jourdain, with whom you were riding a moment ago, had his pole position revoked for a technical violation in post-qualifying inspection. Carpentier leapt to the task, and he has the measure of the field to this point. His gap over his teammate, here comes Paul Tracy, now nearly 6 full seconds.
Not quite sure what Paul is struggling with, but and he is off big time in the dirt, exit of turn 6, and Bruno gets around.
I was about to say, Junqueira just could not wait much longer if he thought he was faster than Tracy. Look at the gap Junqueira is able to pull out. Now we want to go back to that pit stop sequence in which Paul Tracy ran into the tire in the pit lane. Watch the car to the right of the screen. That's Tracy. There's the tire being placed on the ground. And pow. Now the question is, who, if anyone, is at fault here? You are not allowed to run into pit equipment, but given the situation, this teammate alongside,
I think he clearly was spinning the tires maybe more aggressively than usual. Probably slewed a little bit more sideways.
One way or another, Paul Tracy is not keeping up the pace he had on his last stint. Heard his team manager Neil Mickelwright say they have no reason to think there's anything wrong with the car. But Bruno Junqueira is now opening a gap over Tracy. And here comes Sebastian Bourdais, the rookie, in fourth. He wants a piece of Tracy now.
Whether there's actual damage, there's definitely something wrong with the balance of the car.
Tire smoke from the left front of Tracy's current set of Bridgestones. You get a good look at Sebastian Bourdais. His father Patrick raced at Le Mans, which is the town in which Sebastian Bourdais was born 20-odd years ago. He has been setting rookie records all season long. Pole positions in his first couple of races, leading in virtually every race save one to this point. I don't believe he led any laps at Milwaukee. And 2 victories, both coming in Europe. Took him no time at all to get right up on Tracy.
Towards the end of that last stint, we saw both Newman Haas cars, both the Pacific Air and the Lilly car, really close in on the players' cars. They didn't. I don't want to say they got faster because their times fell off as well, but they did not fall off near as much as the players' cars did at the end of the second fuel stint.
While this is going on, Junqueira is flying half a second quicker than race leader Carpentier on that last lap. Here's Calvin Fish.
And here with John Tzanekas. TZ, a couple of questions. Are you happy with the Tracy pit stop? You saw the tire get bumped. Any concerns there as an opponent?
Well, in that situation, he hit a tire exiting the pit, so we thought that was a penalty. I mean, it's bad for us to be out there racing with Tracy. If they're going to give him a penalty, they need to do it right away, so we don't get in a situation where we get in an accident or something racing for position.
Bruno managed to get around Tracy. He made a mistake. Now you got to make the gap up to Patrick. Bruno seems very fast on the second half of his stint.
Right now, and Rocky needs to get back to work here.
Okay, these guys are busy down here, guys. We'll leave them alone.
Rocky is Rocky Rocaline, one of the team engineers. A lot of chatter goes on over the radios during these events between the driver and the pits. Here's another look at what happened to Paul Tracy climbing the hill. But Bruno almost followed him off the racetrack. Comes.
Just ran out of road. He had picked up the throttle, so he thought he was going to be able to keep it on that extra bit of white pavement. But once the right rear dumped off, it pulled the whole car almost off into the dirt.
We're getting a lot of dirt buildup there just coming down the corkscrew. That may trip somebody up.
What's happening there is when the guys turn in the blind second part of the corkscrew, half of them are dragging their right side wheel through the dirt on the inside, and the next car through has to deal with that. I saw Oriol Servia do it when we were on board with Michel Jourdain looking forward.
Into a mistake. He's really struggling. They have an engine problem.
Sebastian's Newman Haas team
down on the boost, please. Down on the boost.
They're telling him that Tracy's really struggling, and Sebastian answered back, we have an engine problem. They asked him to go back on the boost, which tells me that he probably blew the pop-off valve. Until that valve reseats, it will not build boost.
Pop-off valve controls the amount of turbocharger boost in the manifold and thereby the amount of horsepower these engines will make. While Sebastian's team was urging him along, Bruno Junqueira's team and the other Newman Haas car was telling him he's catching the race leader at half second a lap and keep it up. Well, duh. Still only 2 cars out of the race. Rodolfo Levine and the man we heard from earlier, Darren Manning. Jeff Boss is the last car in the serial, 17th, 2 laps down to the race leader. The top 11 cars are all on the lead lap. You're on board with Oriol Servia in 7th. So Michel Jourdain Jr. is now 6th, and the next man ahead of him is Mario Haberfeld. Now, a couple of years ago, Oriol Servia, driving for another team, well, he has a memory he won't soon forget. Coming down to the Andretti hairpin, he flipped over, actually touched wheels with the car of Mauricio Gugelmin, and as will happen in open-wheeled cars, he launched The nose struck the ground at the precise angle for the maximum transfer of energy, and look how high that car flew. Miraculously, Oriol Servio was unhurt except for a few bruises. And this was yesterday at second round qualifying, turn 4. The left front wheel caught the tire wall, and that was that. Calvin Fish.
Well, Pat Patrick is normally pretty hard on his drivers when they do make a mistake, Bob, but they're really pushing Oriol this season to really push harder. So it was actually big smiles in the camp, if you can believe it, after $50,000, $60,000 worth of damage to the front end of the Visteon car. They've coming on 3 top 5 finishes. They said they want Oriol to try 100%, not drive at 95 and be conservative, so they have no problem with him pushing hard and making little mistakes. Quick update on Sebastian Bourdais. We saw him very close to Paul Tracy a short while ago. He's dropping back. The team are reporting that the pop-up valve is opening up. They have some kind of system problem on the boost control.
There's a look at Paul Newman, and the gentleman with the cigar is Carl Haas, co-owners of Newman Haas Racing, Bruno Junqueira, and this man, Sebastian Bourdais. They've had so many great drivers over the years. 4 champions: Mario Andretti, Michael Andretti, Nigel Mansell, and Cristiano D'Amata last year.
You see how busy the drivers are. That toggle switch he's working with there, I'm pretty sure is the boost toggle, where he bumps it up to try to...
Back up on boost. Back up on boost.
Back up on boost. Get more power, more speed.
Whatever it is that he's been monkeying with, it's not insignificant. He was right on Paul Tracy's bumper. He's now almost 9 seconds behind. So it's certainly taken him out of his rhythm. It might not be slowing the car that much, but just the distraction could be adding at least double to that gap.
Oh, is that tire holding on okay still? Yeah, I can barely see where I'm going now.
Paul Tracy says, I barely can see where I'm going.
That's because of that flat spot. Every time that flat part of the tire slaps the road, it sends a shudder through the entire car. The steering wheel will be shaking, and it's blurring his vision. He has to make it to lap 72, though, or it'll mean an extra stop. If he makes it to lap 72, he can make it to the end. So no matter how much it's slowing him down, it wouldn't be slowing him down enough that it would be worth coming in.
Look at the visor cam. Get a little of that vibration Paul is talking about.
Where it'll be the most dramatic is at high speed, going up into the corkscrew and down into turn 2. As the speed climbs, you can see it, the shudder there. There's a good view of how blind it is when you drop into the corkscrew. Drivers use those 2 trees as a reference point. So it's easy to understand why they can be 6 inches off and drag those right side tires through the dirt.
Now let's go back to that pit stop. We do have an official decision. Watch Paul Tracy to the right of the screen. Watch when his car starts moving. You'll see the crewman from Fernandez Racing. Paul is moving. The tire is put down. Now, because that crewman put that tire down when Tracy was already in motion, then it is not Paul's problem that he hit it, and there will be no penalty.
That ruling might be in no small part due to Neil Mipplewright's eloquence.
Watch your speed. Look for Todd. Wide open in pit lane. We're short filling the fuel, Brandon. Short filling the fuel.
Calvin Fish.
Sebastian Bourdais pulls it in. He is now in the window to go the rest of the distance without an additional stop, so they're good there, but they believe they got the boost problem fixed, so I'm unsure. They're looking over the top of the car. Maybe it's gotten worse again, but the team thought they had the problem
fixed. We may as well go and at least try and finish the race. Let's go and finish the race. Get the best points we can out of it. Watch your speed, leaving pit lane.
Kenny Seawick not available this weekend, looking after his mother in Milwaukee. Hopefully she's feeling good, but he's not going to be liking the pictures here at Laguna Seca.
Is that the race leader? Yes, it is, going by. So Sebastian Bourdais goes a lap down. Or that was Tracy going by, because here comes... No, that was Carpentier, because there is Bruno Junqueira in second place, putting his teammate a lap down as we begin the third and, if expected, final round of pit stops. Saw crewman working at that electronic pop-off control. We'll take a break and be back for more pit stops from Monterey. Monday on an all-new Late Show. You haven't heard from Senator Hillary Clinton until you've seen her with Dave. It's the interview everyone will be talking about and the Late Show you don't want to miss. Dave's all-new Monday right here on CBS, America's most watched network. And we certainly hope Dave is looking in. There is his driver, Michel Jourdain Jr., who is now up into 5th. And just ahead on the road is Mario Haberfeld in the MyJack Conquest car in 4th place. So Jourdain, after having his pole position revoked, dropped back to 13th on a grid on a track where it's very difficult to pass, even when all of your competitors aren't equally quick. Has been able to work his way forward and has a shot at the podium with 1 pit stop yet to go. And as we mentioned earlier, his Rahal Letterman crew is the best in the business.
It's a very measured drive where he's been aggressive. He's passed cars on the track. They've passed cars on the pits. And while other people have dropped out, they've improved positions that way. Up into 5th, he's going to try to be right on Haberfeld's gearbox and let that Rahal team do its magic and leapfrog him past Haberfeld while the cars are stopped.
Down into the hairpin, named for the great Mario Andretti. L2. 2 laps left to pit. Now Bruno Junqueira is in 2nd place, and he is flying. A 72.8 on that last lap. Couple of tenths quicker than the race leader, Patrick Carpentier. Calvin Fish has more on him.
Just spoke to Peter Gibbons, who oversees the operation down here for Newman Haas. He believes that they will have a faster pit stop than Patrick Carpentier. They'd like to put some front wing in. They're not going to waste time with that. They'll make a slight tire pressure adjustment for the understeer in the race car, but they think they can do a very short fill, and Carpentier will need to put more fuel in the tank. So if he can close that gap any, he may be able to overtake him in the pit lane. Let's go down to Double D, Derek Daly.
Calvin, Mike Cannon, the engineer for Patrick Carpentier, would love to put front wing in. They're afraid to take the time to do it in case Junqueira beats them out. So they're all thinking exactly down the same line here.
That was a shrewd move by Newman Haas. They didn't have much to lose on their last stop. There was no one right behind Bruno. They chose to put more fuel in on that stop, whereas Carpentier did not have that option. Paul Tracy was right behind him. They had to balance and probably have equal stops, second to last and lap. So if the estimations are correct by the players' team or the Newman Haas team, they should be stationary if everything goes perfectly for less time than the players' car.
A buildup of dirt there in the corkscrew. Don't want to get offline there. See, Paul Tracy may try to stop a lap ahead of his teammate.
Probably to give Pat a clear entry or exit out of the pits.
Yep, because he is the car directly ahead of him, even though they do have that cut through in the pit wall, giving him a little extra gap. We saw those little bits of black rubber. Racers call them marbles. They're bits of rubber that ball up off the tires. They can make life a little treacherous offline as well. Paul Tracy is in.
This does not hurt Paul because the next car behind him is 33 or probably about
set up. Let's put it right on the mark.
16 seconds
Could be a relatively quick stop.
By stopping a lap early, if a car was right behind him, this would be bad for Paul, but there's no one, so they're doing this as a courtesy to cruise off.
Derek Daly.
I'm going to try and get a look at the front tire that he flat spotted, because that's what cost Bruno so dearly.
Go. Clear.
Good stop for Tracy, nice and clean. I'll come back to you with the right front tire.
All right, thank you, Derek. Up and over the brow, back on his way goes Paul Tracy. Meanwhile, there is the battle for the lead at the corkscrew. More tire smoke from Bruno Junqueira as he tries to claw his way up to Patrick Carpentier.
If both these guys are pushing, that 0.8 of a second gap could be enough. If Patrick has a little bit of a gap, it will offset at least a little bit the extra time he spent stationary. Brakes locked up, coming in, both guys charging in. Look how much time Bruno made up on pit entry.
No need to save the tires there. Derek and Calvin await the top 2 runners of the race.
Oh, this is as good as it gets. Carpentier right on the mark. Now he's a little bit sideways. They're afraid to make the front tires. Wing change, remember. Calvin.
Patrick beats him up. The players team clear the tires. Now the boys are behind the wheel and have to do the work to go for the victory.
Oh, looked like Bruno was a little sluggish getting away there. Carpentier right on the button.
This is really Bruno's best last chance on cold tires. Once everything is stabilized, the temperatures and pressures in the tires, nobody's been able to make a good move on an equal car. As soon as Bruno catches his breath and gets things up to 10, he can say, I thought you said I was going to beat him out, guys.
Oh, like, is that Roberto Moreno off at turn 9, just below the corkscrew. That's where all that dirt was I was talking about. That may have been what threw him off the road. Well, Patrick Carpentier continues to perform flawlessly under great pressure, leading this race from flag to flag thus far. There is Bruno Junqueira. He's got to be racing with a little frustration right now. Derek Daly.
This is the left front tire from Paul Tracy's car. This gave him all the trouble. Again, we're down through to the cords on this Bridgestone because Tracy, as we saw, had that huge lockup on cold tires. When you flat spot this, it causes a vibration he can barely see, as you heard him say, and basically you can't run fast.
He had to run all 24 laps on a flat spotted tire.
That takes some driving skill. Here's Junqueira underneath Haberfeld. Excuse me, Jourdain underneath Haberfeld for 4th place.
The MyJack team got him out in front of Jourdain, but Jourdain got around him, same place he got around Adrian Fernandez. Now that's a good indication of the growing confidence of Michel Jourdain. It's a risky move on cold tires, but he's really coming to go,
Michel. You are P4.
Another terrific driving job by Michel Jourdain. Round 2 of the season on the streets of Long Beach, California. He dominated the race, held off race-long pressure from Paul Tracy, and then the car broke on his last pit stop with a handful of laps to go. He was bitterly frustrated. Cried on the shoulder of his team owner, Bobby Rahal, but then came back in Milwaukee and got the victory. Now he is driving a terrific race today. Here's the pass.
How far back he came from. He made up his mind about 2 corners before, I think. Whoa, big wiggle coming off the corkscrew.
Took that Alex Zanardi line. Same part of the racetrack. It was here that Alex Zanardi authored what's still called simply the pass back in 1996, going underneath race leader Brian Hurd off the road and back on the last lap, going on to win that race. Here are the race leaders sandwiching the blue and orange car of Tiago Montero.
Montero's moving over to get out of Bruno's way and ended up getting in his way a little bit.
Up the hill they go. There's that bump there, discolored by tire rubber. And a double blind brow to the entrance to the corkscrew. Plunging downhill. Height of a 5-story building. 12 laps to go. Next time by, we'll take a break and return to Monterey. Tonight on 60 Minutes, few women ever gave birth to a child as beloved as the one she gave birth to. Meet J.K. Rowling and her brainchild, Harry Potter. Tonight on 60 Minutes. Here on the Monterey Peninsula, perhaps the favored animal is the sea otter. And there's a t-shirt store down in Cannery Row mimicking the artwork on the cover of J.K. Rowling's books. And the character is called Harry Otter. Take a couple of those home. Welcome back. Closing laps of the Champ Car Grand Prix of Monterey. Patrick Carpentier has led from the initial green flag with 10 laps remaining in this race. A little over 22 miles to go for a potential flag-to-flag victory. And that would be a measure of redemption for this man. See, a couple of years ago, he performed one of the most amazing athletic feats you'll ever see. In practice for this very race, watch as Patrick Carpentier got it all wrong and did the full vault at the tire wall. Very high degree of difficulty. And of course, we can make jokes about it now because despite landing on his head from a great height, he was completely uninjured in that spectacular accident. In his previous starts at this racetrack, Patrick Carpentier's best was 5th in this race this year. The others, 9th, 17th, and 26th. In fact, he was 9th twice. This victory will be a big step up for Patrick Carpentier in the championship.
And earlier I was starting to talk about how Carpentier deals with pressure. Last year at Mid-Ohio, he was under intense pressure from the runaway series leader, Cristiano D'Amata, and it was D'Amata that cracked made a mistake trying to get around Carpentier. See Sebastian Bourdais.
Yep.
Looks like his day's finally coming to an end, pulling off the road. But Carpentier handled the pressure beautifully. Another observation about Carpentier is he's a real streaky driver. Last year, no pun intended, when he took his clothes off after promising to do so at Mid-Ohio. But some races, he's almost untouchable. Then other races, for races on end, you don't hear a thing from him. And I talked about the impact of confidence on Michel Jourdain. It doesn't just apply to rookies and first-time winners. When Carpentier has that bounce in his step and the confidence is flowing, he drives like this.
Last time a driver led flag to flag, the inaugural street race in Denver, Colorado last year. The man who did it, the man who currently runs second, Bruno Junqueira. Will he allow Patrick Carpentier to do it? Let's get more with Derek Daly.
With Mike Cannon, the engineer for Patrick, you've documented every lap. If you bite your nails, you better start now. Can he hang on here?
I'm sorry I didn't get that, but I mean,
can he hang on?
I certainly hope so. I mean, it's one thing to catch a guy, it's another thing to pass him, isn't it? I mean, the Team Players car has been pretty strong all weekend. Looks like in race trim that Junkie's car's got a bit of an edge, but he'll hang on.
There you go. So they believe they're in the catbird seat. Calvin?
I think the key for Bruno, up until that last lap, he had been marginally quicker than Patrick. He needs to get close enough, Derek, so that if he's in a position where there is some traffic, remember that blocking rule once again. I think the kart stewards will really be looking closely at that. If Patrick gets balked in traffic, he cannot pull a blocking maneuver on Bruno sitting beside him. And meanwhile, his teammate, Sebastian Bourdais, has called it a day. He'll be climbing out the cockpit.
Tough break for the French rookie, who's been on such a great roll of late. 2 victories in Europe. He was concerned about the Milwaukee Mile, a very intimidating place, and he was not much of a factor there en route to 9th place. It appears his day is over here at Laguna Seca, a track he says he absolutely loves.
Here comes some of that traffic that Calvin talked about.
That's Jeff Boss up ahead.
That's Camathias.
That's Camathias in the Swiss-sponsored car. No problem.
And Pat wants to keep this cushion. He does not want, even though it's not a lot, it's only 9/10 of a second, it's enough that it buys him a little bit of time in traffic. So last time through turn 4, some puffs of dirt. Patrick is not leaving anything on the table. Sometimes you say, I don't want to take any more out of the car and let him get it right up behind me and have a little bit of car to spare. It seems like Pat says, I'd rather use every inch of this track, look at that, right out by the dust, every single lap. He'd rather work really hard, use everything he has to keep that small margin.
Well, he may be getting on one of those runs of success you talked about earlier, TK. 3rd at Milwaukee 2 weeks ago, a possible victory here. Last year at Mid-Ohio, he was going for his 2nd victory in a row in a Buckeye State. He swore if he won, he'd run naked around the racetrack. He did win, and with a little cajoling and a little carefully placed use of a checkered flag, he ran semi-naked. Right now, the gap is stabilized a little bit back to Bruno Junqueira. 6 laps to go. Next time under the flag stand. Let's go to Calvin Fish.
Well, the man who scored more points in the last 3 races than anyone is Sebastian Bourdais, leaving up to 4th in points. But Sebastian, what ultimately put you out of the race today? What put you out, mate?
Yeah, I think we had a good car for the race. For sure, we were not the quickest on the track, but still we were able to do a good job. And that race, it's the 2nd time it happens this weekend that we have a boost problem with this motor. But the guys did a fantastic job. They changed already everything in the engine and the loom and everything overnight. And I don't know what happened again, but it's very big disappointment.
Disappointment indeed. He could have been on for a podium finish right on the tail of Paul Tracy there until he had those problems, Bob.
Well, and it may cost him a place in the championship. He was 4th coming in, was Sebastian Bourdais. Patrick Carpentier was 5th. But Bourdais' DNF, or did not finish, combined with a potential victory for Patrick Carpentier, will almost certainly move the Canadian past the Frenchman into 4th place in the championship. This is round 7. We are a third of the way through the 2003 Bridgestone Presents the Champ Car World Series, powered by Ford season. We have 9 races coming up in the next 12 weeks. So the championship stretch run begins right now.
On board with 3rd place, Paul Tracy. And right after his last stop, when he got some round tires on all 4 corners of the Players car, he got dipped down in the minute 12-second range. So he had the speed, but now it appears as though he's backed off. Not under pressure, no one in front of him, no one behind him.
Here's Michel Jourdain, clear track ahead of him. He is about 13 seconds behind Paul Tracy for third place. We'll check that. He's approaching the timing line.
5 more, 5 laps.
There's Mario Haberfeld in the blue and yellow car. He is the leading rookie right now. We have a great battle going for the Jim Truman Rookie of the Year award. Sebastian Bourdais was leading that coming in, but Haberfeld will score a lot of points on his French rival today and tighten up that chase.
Nice all-around weekend for the MyJack Conquest team and Mario Haberfeld.
Checking in with 6th place, Oriol Servia from Patrick Racing. Another solid finish. He has been in the top 6 for, I believe it's 5 races in a row now. He's had a great string of points-paying finishes. And after driving for 3 or 4 different teams in his first few years in the Champ Cars, really appears to have found a home with Patrick Racing. There's Adrian Fernandez. Another solid run in 7th, but I think not what he was looking for. This is a man with very high standards. And a double handful of victories to his credit, but none as an owner-driver. There is Jimmy Vasser. His car owner, Stefan Johansson, is on his way back for the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Jimmy, a former winner here in 1997, the series champion in 96 when his teammate Alex Zanardi won the race. They reversed those roles the following year.
Adrian's been sliding back. Jimmy has been running his quickest laps at the end of every stint, so he's right behind Adrian. As Scott Cannon said, catching and passing on this circuit are 2 different things, but Jimmy's been running his very quickest laps later in his fuel stints than any other car.
4 laps to go. Tiago Montero in 9th place, 2nd highest ranked rookie in the field, driving for the great Emerson Fittipaldi. Ooh, torturing those Bridgestones. Car ahead of him is Alex Tagliani, who is a lap down to Tiago Montero, so that's not a fight for position as we go on board with Mario Dominguez in 10th place.
I ran to Mario at Starbucks this morning, and he was quick all weekend. I think he was 3rd in the final practice going into qualifying, and was mystified that they were so uncompetitive when it really counted. And I think that might be a function of this track that changes so much between when the track's hot, cold, new tires, used tires, and they just missed it.
Here's Brian Herta, a 2-time winner, making his return to the Champ Cars after a couple of seasons away. Currently in 11th spot. Good for Brian to score points in this appearance. A cameo for a former race winner at Laguna. Ryan Hunter-Reay won the race in the Toyota Atlantic Championship, which is the top driver development step on the ladder to the Champ Cars in the kart system. He too will pick up a points-paying finish today. It's been a tough initiation to these 750 horsepower high downforce cars for Ryan Hunter-Reay, but he's got a point in the offing today. And here comes the race leader. 2 laps to go.
Carpentier has eked out another couple tenths. Now 1.1 second gap. He is working for those tenths. It's that spot where he's been kicking dirt every single lap.
Bruno Junqueira behind him, thinking about making a lunge for the win. Junqueira's got the championship to think about. He's tied with Paul Tracy for 2nd behind Michel Jourdain coming into the weekend. Tracy is in 3rd behind him. Michel Jourdain is behind Tracy in 4th. And Carpentier is even further back in the championship, hoping to move into 4th place around Sebastian Bourdais. So right now, there are very, very good championship points available to Bruno Junqueira if he just drives it home in 2nd. We are going to have a great summer of racing here on the Champ Car Series.
Patrick's wife,
Last lap, Pat. That's fun. Nice and smooth.
1 lap to go. An enormous contingent of Canadian journalists follow every round of the championship. Follow the exploits of this man, Alex Tagliani, Paul Tracy. All Canadian drivers, sponsored by Players, a tobacco brand in Canada.
Down to 0.77 seconds. There's the dirt. One more time for Carpentier. And that just shows you that when a guy's in a zone like this is a car 750 horsepower. The tires are changing a little bit. The track changes a little bit. Drifts it to within literally an inch of the same spot every single lap.
I mentioned players because they've done a great deal to support young Canadian racing drivers. In the 4 decades or so, they've been sponsoring professional motorsports. With the evolution of tobacco sponsorship here in America and abroad, they may not be around for a long time in the future.
This is a farewell tour for players. Basically.
And if this man, Patrick Carpentier, can hold on, it'll be the 4th win for players in 03. 3 of them from Paul Tracy, and now 1 from Patrick Carpentier, the 4th different winner in 7 rounds in the Champ Car Series this year. And there are hugs all around in the Forsyth crew pits. 4th career victory for Patrick Carpentier as we go on board with Paul Tracy. Holding on to 3rd place with Michel Jourdain Jr. behind him. There's Tagliani, Montero, and we'll be looking for Michel Jourdain Jr. in 4th. There he is. Not under fire from Mario Haberfeld, 2 cars back. So from 13th place, after the disappointment of having his pole position taken away, Michel Jourdain Jr. comes home 4th, just off the podium. There's Adrian Fernandez. This is a battle for position. That's Jimmy Vasser behind him. This is for 7th place. Oriol Servia, the orange and white Vistion car ahead on the road. 6th, 7th, and 8th. Finished nose to tail. Big victory for Patrick Carpentier coming into his time of year. He always drives well in midsummer. Some of his best racetracks are coming up. CBS Sports coverage of the Champ Car Grand Prix of Monterey will continue after this message and a few donuts and a word from your local station. Back live to Laguna Seca. There is Patrick Carpentier just climbing out of his car after victory here at the Grand Prix of Monterey. Let's go down to Derek Daly.
It is a time of great celebration here. All the 4s. Patrick's 4th win. This weekend was his 4th pole. This is the 4th win for this team, and it is the first time team players have had 2 cars on the podium. Patrick, I know you're happy. You're on the top spot. What a great day.
It's fantastic. We're catching up the leaders slowly, and that's what we wanted. But team players did an amazing job. Got a good exchange of information with PT. Few close calls there, but I want to stay first for this one, and we got it. Good job, guys.
We talked at the top of the show about the pressure on you leading from the front. We saw a mistake when Tracy almost got by, and then Bruno Junqueira really piled it on. Any close calls? Any near misses?
Oh, yeah, quite a few, actually. But the biggest one was when Paul was behind me and got into the corner and completely missed the corner, and I couldn't stop for it. And I thought Paul was going to pass, and actually he was pretty nice. He kind of let me by and went behind me. So thanks, Paul, and it was fantastic.
So tell me about the donuts at the corkscrew at the end, or lack thereof. Were they donuts or were they French croissants?
Yeah. They look more like croissants. But I just want to spin it however I could and just enjoy it. But next time maybe I'll do donut. It was not even a croissant. It was pretty bad. And I stalled it. Lucky it was a hill. I started back.
Now, Patrick, halfway through the stints, the tires seemed to go away. We saw lots of cars, including yours, have a lot of trouble, almost as if it was a skating rink out there.
Yeah, what I was trying to do is I was trying to escape from the guys because I knew my car was strong right away and I could get a bit of a lead on them if I made it good. So that's what I was doing because I knew at the end of the stint these guys were going to come back and I was a little bit too loose. So I wanted to get a cushion to stay ahead. But
you may not even remember, but do you remember your teammate Paul Tracy actually hit you in the back on the first start?
That's true. That's true. It's just that I was going to start, but Bruno had a big run on me and was going to jump the start, so I kind of slowed down quite a bit to make it obvious to the guy there so he doesn't throw the green flag, and boom, Paul hit me, and I was like, oh my God, and after that it was good.
Well, his wife Anique is right here. She's waiting to give him a big kiss for a job very well done. Anique and Patrick Carpentier. Calvin?
Well, here with Bruno Junqueira, 6th time in 7 races. He finished in the top 5. Bruno, talk about the start there. We had the wave off. What did you see there?
I just saw now on TV. I said, Pat, he put the power down, then he braked. And I gone. I was, and they wave off. I didn't know what's happened, but now I see that Tracy hit Pat. You know, but the second start was kind of a joke because, I mean, Pat just did last turn and put the power down, and I was next to Adrian Fernandez that was starting fifth, you know, but that's okay.
The players' cars took off at the beginning of the race, Bruno, but come the second half of each stint, your car looked to be very, very strong today.
Yeah, the Pacific car was very strong all day. I was making some pressure on both race, and I locked the fronts and I flat spot the tires, and then I kind of back off on the first set of tires. Then you change tires. I was 9 seconds behind, and I started to pick up the race again.
Okay, congratulations to second place in points. Let's go over a double D with PT.
Well, the teammates are here, Paul. It was a great fight, but I know probably that flat-spotted tire in the middle of the stint cost you dearly.
Yeah, I knew that our pit stop was just a hair better, and Pat beat me around. And I thought, I'm going to get him, and I went to the outside, and I went down the outside, and I locked up both front tires and just completely flat-spotted them really bad, and I had to suffer 25 laps with a horrendous vibration, and the car just got worse and worse and worse, and I couldn't get it to stop, I couldn't get it to turn. And then, you know, Bruno got around me, so I had to basically settle for third.
Thank you, Paul. They're anxious to get the truck here away with everybody. So, two drivers on the podium for the very first time. But Bruno, I bet you he thinks the win got away because of that flat-spotted tire on his opening stint.
That was the tale of Paul Tracy's race. We'll give you a look at the championship points as the top three finishers begin their lap of honor, and there's been quite a change. Michel Jourdain Jr. remains the leader, but by now by only 6 points over new second-place man Bruno Junqueira, who leaps up into second around Paul Tracy, who drops to third, 2 behind Bruno. Patrick Carpentier jumps past Sebastian Bourdais, as we mentioned, into 4th place, just 19 points out of the championship lead. We'll be back. Race, we had a great one today. Just 1 lap of caution. That when the initial start was waved off. We started on lap 2, went green from there. The new race record average speed is 107.986 miles an hour, shattering the old mark by about 7 miles per hour. Let's go to Calvin Fish.
What a drive this man put together today. Michel Jourdain, the championship leader. You're in a very difficult position starting this race, middle pack, but you're aggressive right from the get-go.
Thanks, Alvin, and yeah, I think it was a great race, you know, but right now it's so frustrating because we showed we really we were the fastest car yesterday and today, and we could pass so many cars, and you know, after Long Beach and now here, you know, we should have so many more points. But you know, like I said after qualifying, and I told my guys, things happen because of something, and maybe somebody would have put us out in the first corner, so I guess 12 points is better than nothing. But I mean, it's the car, I had the best car ever, you know, I mean, I could pass so many cars, and it killed me yesterday because here it's impossible to pass, and I passed so many cars on cold tires. The guys did a fantastic job in the pit, so it's very good. I'll feel much better tomorrow.
Well, they talk about PT being the man who can pass in this series. I think he passed the mantle off here today, Derek Daly.
And in celebration of this team's new sponsorship with the Givril Watch Company, the Mike Jack Conquest team, with Mario Haberfeld. Mario, I think you had not just a great day, but a great weekend.
Yeah, I think I have to congratulate the whole team, and especially Andy, my engineer. I mean, the car, since it came out of the truck, it had great balance, so it made my job a lot easier. Every change we made was helping, and in qualifying, I don't feel we could have done any better. We were right at the limit of the car. And in the race, unfortunately, for cold tires, I think we lack a little bit of downforce, but apart from that, it was a great run, and it's the best we could hope for.
I think it was a great run. Well done, of course, here with his lovely wife, Anna, also celebrating a very fine run.
That's right, Derek. It's all about family. Of course, this is Father's Day weekend. We mentioned earlier that a number of the drivers in today's race had their fathers alongside. So right now, we'd like to take this opportunity to chat with a few and offer a special tribute to fathers on this special weekend. The Andretti's, son Michael and father Mario, and now Michael's own son Marco, are the embodiment of a tradition that sets racing apart from virtually any other sport: family. Specifically, fathers and sons sharing a passion for speed. In 1983, Al Unser Jr. proudly held his infant son, also named Al. Now a 4th-generation driver making his way up the ladder to Champ Car racing. And his story is not unique. Behind nearly every successful driver, you'll find a supportive dad.
bugged my father for like 3 years to buy me a go-kart, and then finally he accepted and he bought me a go-kart and started racing.
We went at it ever since karting. You know, it was taking a truck and trailer from down South Florida all the way up to top of Wisconsin, all the way over to California and back. I mean, without my dad, I wouldn't be here at all.
Beyond moral and financial help, fathers often pass along the racing gene. Sebastian Bourdais' father, Patrick, here celebrating his son's win in the German 500 in May, chose to put his own racing career on hold.
He had to stop racing himself to get the budgets for me, so now he can race again. He's doing the 24 hours of Le Mans this year, and I'm really glad he can come to my races and just get fun and having no pressure about finding the money, which is very the truth, you know.
My father, he was instrumental in my racing, you know, even from getting me started in go-karts when I was 9 years old. We used to thrash around old industrial estates and airfields, disused airfields in a go-kart, and we just started off as a hobby in our back garden together. Hopefully he's going to come and celebrate Father's Day with me.
One father who's become a familiar face on the circuit is Jim Vassar, who ran to the trackside wall when son Jimmy was caught up in a massive accident last fall in Australia, then exulted when Jimmy crawled out unhurt. He was there the following weekend in Fontana, California, when Jimmy came back to win the fastest 500-mile race in history.
My dad was the racer in the family. He's the one that really was the enthusiast. He had me racing cars when I was 6, and he's a drag racer and a hot rodder. Back in the day, in the 50s and the 60s.
Well, Father's Day, we've got Adrian Fernandez and his father here, Adrian Fernandez Sr. Congratulations on your birthday yesterday, 70 years old. How much fun is it for you to come to these races and watch your son perform?
Oh, I feel very good to see my son in the race, on the track, and I want to see the win in the first place.
Certainly was a tough day for Adrian. You finished 7th, right in the thick of a battle all day long, though.
Yeah, it was a shame. We had a great start. We went up to 4th place from 5th, and we maintained there for the whole first segment. We had a bad pit stop on the first one, and we dropped 2 positions. And all our pit stops, for some reason, were not, you know, they were not there. And in one of them, I came out of the pits, and I didn't have the gap that I came with it. And I pushed too hard on the first corner. I made a mistake myself there. Lost 2 positions there. Then I passed Oriol Serbia, but then the last pit stop, we came in 1 lap earlier, and we lost a ton there. We lost again to Oriol, so it was one of those days, you know, it's just like, we recover and you don't catch it, but we just have to keep working. There's no other way to improve. I mean, the car is running better, just things are not working our way right now.
Okay, well, still a strong points-paying position for Adrian. Let's go down to Double D with one of the other sons in the race.
Yes, another feature on that dad-son video was Ryan Hunter-Reay. Ryan, last year, great memories winning the Atlantic race. A little bit of a struggle this weekend.
It was, but you have those weekends in racing. You just got to keep your head up and move on and learn a lot. And that's what we did, and we're ready to move on to Portland.
Your dad's not here, but I'm pretty sure he's probably watching on television. Want to say hello?
Absolutely. Happy Father's Day, Dad. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here. So
there you go. Thank you, Ryan.
All right, thanks very much, guys. The podium ceremony is underway. Champagne has been sprayed. Patrick Carpentier with his hand in the air. Big day for himself, for his teammate Paul Tracy, for their team, and for Bruno Junqueira as the championship drama tightens further. Carpentier, Junqueira, Tracy, Jourdain. It's going to be a long summer. Few women ever gave birth to a child. Today's Champ Car Grand Prix of Monterey. 4th career victory for Patrick Carpentier. Great run for Bruno Junqueira, now 2nd of the championship. Paul Tracy drops to 3rd. And Michel Jourdain bumped from pole position back to 13th, came all the way up to 4th. We heard from Adrian Fernandez. Jimmy Vassar came home 8th, the former winner here. Good run for the rookie Tiago Montero as well. Brian Herta returns to Laguna Seca and finishes just outside the top 10, but in the 12 points-paying positions. The final one going to Ryan Hunter-Reay. Alex Tagliani finished 14th. Jeff Boss in his first start in a Champ Car, 16th, a couple of laps down. Sebastian Bourdais, Darren Manning, and Rodolfo Levine out of the race at the end. Time for final thoughts. Let's go down to the pit lane one last time. Derek Daly.
I said at the top of the show that Patrick Carpentier has a golden opportunity to make a personal statement of how good he is. Did he do it? Absolutely, he did it. I think it's a great measure of the mental skills of a racing driver when you can go at the front like that and be under such pressure and still come through to win. But I'll tell you what, it sure made a great afternoon's racing also, Calvin.
It was an awesome race, Derek, and a lot of people don't like these pit windows, but it was flat-out racing today. You could see that, the guys locking up brakes, cold tires, having to go out there, perform immediately, no traction control, the cars are getting sideways. It was a very exciting race today, Bob.
That it was, gentlemen, but it's time to load up and head north. Our next race is in Portland, Oregon. Tommy Kendall, you can't beat a race when the top 2 or 3 cars all come in together on those pit stops.
I'll tell you what, I really enjoyed myself. This is what it's all about. They put the driving back in, and you had guys out there testing themselves, testing the machines. This is not supposed to be easy, and it was obvious today it wasn't. Everybody made little mistakes. Carpentier made a little one, got away with it. A great day for me.
No question about it. So for Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish, I'm Bob Varsha saying so long from Monterey, California, where Patrick Carpentier of Canada has won the Champ Car Grand Prix of Monterey. CBS Sports coverage of the Bridgestone Presents the Champ Car World Series powered by Ford continues next Sunday live at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time with the Champ Car Grand Prix of Portland. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports.